Good afternoon. Today we will learn about NP282 ALRS Volume 2. So this is basically radio aids to navigation, that is all the AAS, then the recons, then the GPS, DGPS, how it is working, the legal time. This is the book that will give you the time of a country, then the radio time signals and electronic position fixings. So how to use this book is, we'll as usual go to the chart catalog NP131. In NP131 under publications, so publications, you will have the ALRS, and in ALRS, since we are talking about NP282, this is the NP282. So it is basically covered in two parts. Which part you are going to use depends on where you are going to sail. So you just draw a line, which all areas you want to use, you can use it. Now how to find which is the current edition of the publication? Again, for that, the easiest way is to use the quarterly notice to mariners. So this is basically the quarterly notice to mariners, week 39 of 2021. Under this NP282, this was published in which week of which year, their edition, the year of publication, and these are all the list of the corrections that were applicable. Basically, this is a week number and this is the place where that correction applied. So this is how it is done. So without further delay, I will go into 282. So my ship is sailing basically in the Far East. So behind this you will get a list of all the NP282 volumes. I am sailing somewhere here, so we will be using that. As we open the book, on the first page you should write where you received and which date you received it. Then comes the record of updates. These are all the records of updates that were carried out on this book. Again, the contents. Then these are pages that are similar to all the books. Then the abbreviations and glossary used in this book. And after this comes the index of geographical sections for radio aids to navigation. So radio aids to navigation, and see the country, if it is having a DF station, direction finder station, then the radar beacons and the AIS. So if you are sailing in maybe Indonesia, Bali, you can see there is no direction finding station here, there is no radar beacons here, and the AIS stations are in 196 page. Then comes an explanation of radio direction finding stations. I have never used a radio direction finding station, so I will just cover this topic. They are giving you a diagram for obtaining half convergency. These are all something new to me, I never used it. And the country of offering this direction finding system. So after this comes, this is basically covered in the Canada. Next comes the radar beacons. Radar beacons are of the types of radar beacons. Radar beacons, their types, then which frequency, which band frequency of the radar will activate. You can see 3 cm and 10 cm. 3 is basically X and 10 is S band. After this is an introduction on how to read the section. So basically this is the country, this is the point, its lat long, which radar band it is going to support, at which angle it is going to get triggered, the range in nautical miles, the sweep in how many seconds, which Morse code is going to come up on your radar, if it is flashing, what is a flash, and the station number. So basically recons are of two types. If it is a fixed, it will be a star, and if it is a floating one that can be moved, it will be having a circle. This is an important thing. You cannot fix your accurate position using this, because it is liable to drift, and a recon with a star mark is a fixed position. So this recon is fixed. You can get a very accurate position using this recon. For an example, we can use the Horsburgh lighthouse. This is basically chart number 2403. This is a Singapore entry chart. So this is a Singapore entry, and in the Singapore entry there is a lighthouse called the Horsburgh lighthouse. You can see it is showing recon O. I'll bring it a little bit more closer to you just for the sake of getting it. You can see recon O. So this recon, how to find it in this book is very simple. Radio beacons, you just go to Singapore Singapore. So this is covering Singapore. So Singapore lighthouse, this is Horsburgh, the position, which radar frequency it is going to trigger it, which all sectors. They are not giving the sectors here. Its range also they are not giving, sweep also they are not giving, but it will give you Morse code O, and flash they are not giving for that recon, then the station number ID. This is how you can use this book to get a good understanding of what is coming up on your chart. So after this comes, I believe you understood how to use this book for radar beacons. Next comes, this is giving you a list of all the radar beacons in the countries. So they are not giving you an index here. The index is basically on the aft of this book. At the aft of the book they will give you, you can see the index of AAS. So you can find out the name of the lighthouse, or this AAS. So they will give you the list of all the beacons, list of all the radio beacons, radar beacons. Then you can just find out the name of the beacon, and you can select it from here. This is how you can find out. Also, after this comes, remember these numbers are in an ascending order, so they are just going up in an ascending order. So there is no confusion. You just get the number, you just find out which number you can get it. It is in increasing order. After the radar beacons come the AIS. So AIS again, there are certain uses for AIS. Remember, this is a fixed AIS, a buoy and a beacon. So if it is a virtual, this is a virtual AIS. So AIS, how it works and which all details they are going to transmit, it will be covered in the next page. This is the next page. So they will give you, basically it's the same thing, the country name, the place where it is, then the position, MMSA number, then service details, then if it is virtual or real, then the type of message it's going to transmit. So these are the types of message an AIS station will transmit. Again, for an example, this is all the list of all the AIS. So how to find this is again very simple. Right now I'll show you a chart. I'll show you a lighthouse with an AIS. This is basically a chart 1822, and this is for the port of Kuching and Pending. It's in Malaysia. So as for an example, I'll be using this lighthouse Tanjung Po. this is the light frequency characteristics, and this is having an AIS symbol. So AIS symbol, when it is there, how to find it? Now if you look into this book, it gets confusing because it's not in a chronological order. So what you do is you go back to the index of AIS stations. So there is at the last part of this book, the AIS stations are there. In this, it is Tanjung Po light is on 216 page. So I'll go to 216 page. In 216 page, Tanjung Po, this is the lighthouse. So it's in Malaysia, and the position, MMSI number, service details, they are not giving any. Then if it is virtual or real, and the types of messages it's transmitting. This is how an AIS has to be read out. Also remember, this I learned very lately, when you make an AIS entry into your chart, remember AIS which is written in this format, you are not writing it in italics. This is a real AIS, and all these AIS are virtual AIS. I have read it somewhere here. So remember this is very important when you correct your charts. This is how on a Admiralty nautical chart, AS, A-tone is aids to navigation. AS is indicated by magenta circle and an adjacent legend AS. The font will be upright for a fixed A-tone. A-tone is aids to navigation, so it should be upright when you are giving when you are correcting for a fixed AS, and in italics on a floating A-tone. Sorry, it's not virtual, it's floating A-tone. All the floating A-tones will have this mark. It should be in italics. After this comes, remember these are all the corrections, and in this book you have pages separately given to correct your corrections for NP2A2, satellite based global positioning system. What are the types? The Galileo system, then the GLONASS, the BEDU, then the Indian IRNSS, and the GPS. So for GPS there is a thing called DGPS. DGPS is basically there is a small error in your GPS position when you receive it from a satellite. So basically they are going to compare the difference of a known location on land, calculate its value, and send it to your GPS receiver so that your position fix is accurate. So for that DGPS, there will be stations that transmit the messages. So again same, the country, the point, its position, then carrier frequency, then the rate of signal transmission, identification number of the reference station, then comes range in nautical miles, then if the integrity monitoring is happening or not, and types of messages transmitted. So the types of DGPS messages are listed in a separate column. So these are all the DGPS stations. After this comes the index of diagrams for radio beacon transmitting DGPS. So index of diagram. For Far East, for China, Korea, Japan, all this I'll skip it. Next comes the standard time. Standard time is this, and for this you have to understand something called international date line. I will talk about this in a later video. Then the standard time designators. See, some countries are having a lot of time zones, so for them they will take it as a standard time. So for that, the standard time they are giving it here. This part of the book is very important because you will have to find out the local time of the region where you are sailing into. So this is basically the time zones of the whole world, and Europe and North Africa, they have enlarged into a separate section. Then comes all the legal times of all the nations in the world. One of the most important thing you have to remember is, this is the country, standard time and daylight saving time. Daylight saving time is really important. So during the daylight, beginning local time to end local time, the standard time has changed from +1 to 0. Another example is, in Spain, the standard time has changed from -1 to -2, from last Sunday in March 0200 hours to last Sunday in October 0300 hours. So during that time, the time zone has changed. So if you are using -1, you should start using -2. This is daylight saving time. All the countries won't have it. If the country doesn't have it, they will just put an X mark. So this is really important for all us mariners. After this comes, after the legal time comes the universal time coordinate. So universal time coordinate, these are all not going to affect us navigators as for navigation, so I'll just skip this. It will give you the universal time coordinated universal time. Then the radio time signals. Radio time signals, again, this is all self-explanatory. I'll just pause it here for some time. You can just read through it. I believe you are getting a good view of this page. Then comes next is the GPS clocks for computer time synchronization. I have basically never done this on my ship, so I'll skip this. It is just included in the book. After this radio time signals comes electronic position fixing system, LOREN-C. LOREN-C is again something that we have never used. These are all olden times position fixing systems. So the LOREN-C, the stations and the slave stations, they are giving an index. This is the diagram. After this comes index of radio direction finding stations. This was the starting thing in the book. Then comes the index of radio beacons, already explained to you. Then comes index of AAS. How to use it I have explained. Then the radio beacons transmitting DGPS, these are the DGPS stations. Then radio time signal index of countries. And finally the international Morse code. So this is the Morse code given given to you. And finally some of the notes. These are places for writing down notes. And this book is complete. So I believe you have got a good understanding of how to use NP 282 or ALRS volume 2. Thank you for watching.